I'd love to hear from you the benefit that you or your clients see from designing in rentals and how it, how it works. Broad question, I know.
I love this topic. Sarah, I think you and I would agree on this. Like, we understand the power of design for a more profitable rental. And we both started a while ago in this. For me, it was in 2015. And we were just screaming to whoever would listen, like, I promise you, if good design will help you be more profitable. And finally, in 23 and 24, AirDNA did a 1 year long research study and actually proved that good design will yield you up to 30 to 40% in a higher return on your investment, a higher rental rate by good professional design. So we actually have statistics now for what we have learned over the years of why you need good design. You really can charge a higher rate. You have more longevity with your furnishings if you do it right. You stand out amongst your competition. I mean, across the board, there is a value, which the AirDNA's quote is hiring an interior designer can lead to higher occupancy rates and increased revenue, justifying the investment across the board. That's them, not us saying that. So, right?
Yeah, Jessica, I really love the word justify because I've been thinking a lot about that as a recovering frugal gal. I can afford things, but can I justify it? And so what I love is that when we design our clients' units really well, the end user, the guest or the potential guest can justify the higher rate because they're booking a beautiful place. And I find as an Airbnb user, short-term and mid-term rental guest myself, when I'm staying at a beautifully decorated place, it also means that I'm dealing with a professional host. If a unit is just thrown together and then thrown on as a listing, I can kind of expect a worse experience because when something goes wrong, they don't have the infrastructure or the people in place to get it fixed or to answer my questions or take care of my needs. And so great design not only is going to justify that higher rate, but I think it also is a message to the end user that they are going to experience a better experience in your home.
Yeah, I think those both of those, that makes so much sense. And I also think, it, not only is it going to give a better experience, but it's also just going to, increase the likelihood of those repeat bookings, increase the likelihood that someone goes home and says, you're never going to guess where I stayed and how well furnished it was and how comfortable this was or how everything just flowed, right? Those great experiences are what lead to the repeat guests, the word of mouth, all of that. What considerations should someone who's on the call consider before they bring on a designer, right? Or what are the things they need to think about in advance of engaging with one of you guys in your services?
You want to go first, Sarah?
Yeah, I think that they need to be really clear on their numbers. I'm a huge advocate of making sure that who you think your end user is makes sense. And then are they willing to pay what you think they're going to pay? And so I often see when when real estate investors buy a bad deal, which I think is like everyone's greatest fear, it's because they just didn't slow down and really realistically run the numbers. And so that could be overestimating occupancy, overestimating nightly rate, and then more importantly, underestimating things like renovation, timeline, and then of course, design costs with either our fees tied in, or if you are going to go at it alone, especially long distance, are you being realistic about your flight, feeding you and the people that are going to help you install, the cost of having someone help you install, and all of that upfront costs sometimes get underestimated. And I think that is my biggest, if I could send you guys home with one message, it would be get really good at analyzing deals. And that's analyzing the whole thing from start to finish.
I love that, Sarah. We are so on the same page. When we have a new client, we do what's called an avatar research. And so we have a program where it looks at all of your competition over 2 years. It looks at reviews, positive and negative, what your competition is charging, what your competition looks like, events in the area, and how the what am I trying to say? How many people book during those different events. And we take all of that data and create your ideal guest and what that guest experience would look like, and help determine how much money would be reasonable to spend to elevate that experience for your new potential avatar guests. And that has really paid off. So to Sarah's point, if that's something that you want to do, and maybe you're not ready to hire a professional for that data, you really can use your online resources and even Chat GPT to help you get some of those statistics. You need that data to tell you how much you're going to spend.
Yeah, and I think like it is about how much you spend, but then it's also right about like, what is that value? What's that ROI? So can we talk a little bit about the ROI piece of it as people start, Sarah, you talked about overestimating what it's going to mean and how this is going to influence, any tips for folks thinking about like what the ROI could be?
Yeah, so I come at it from an interesting angle. For those of you who don't know, I focus on midterm rentals. I wrote the book 30-Day Stay, Mastering the Medium-Term Rental Strategy, published by Bigger Pockets. And so my avatar as an investor, my personal units, these are travel medical professionals. And so I'm decorating my units not only to attract them, but also to keep them in my unit. So in 2023, 47% of my travel nurses extended from 3 months to 6 months. If the unit is not decorated beautifully, and more importantly, in a livable manner, meaning the couch is something that you actually want to sit on after a 12-hour shift. The dining room table is one that you actually want to sit at, again, after a 12-hour shift. Paying attention to the simple things that I think a lot of investors overlook, like a sound machine and blackout curtains and great bedding and a great bed. These are things that keep your unit full. And then, of course, the way that you design it and photograph it is going to first attract them. I think that becomes even more important as you're focusing on these midterm rental clients. I'd love to hear from Jessica, because I know, Jessica, you really focus on short-term rentals. What do you have to say?
Or return on investment items, like what we consider valuable. Yeah, because I see a question in the chat, and it's always the first one we're asked, like, how do you do this on a budget? I say to people, would you stay in your own rental? If what you're putting in there, is that something that you would want to experience as a guest? So your return on investment is really wrapped into one word, and that's experience. So yes, you should have great bedding. Yes, you should have great, beautiful things, but you're assuming that that means you're spending top dollar. It's really about where you're spending the money. So you just mentioned a good place to sit, your bedding, all of those things. You can make beautiful touches on a budget. Little things like when we scan a potential client's images portfolio, I'll see this over and over again. It'll say that they sleep 8 and you'll have a table for 4. You'll say that you have 8 place settings, but your house rents for 12. All of that is experience. So the return on investment is also another way to look at it is having a new neutral eye, somebody that comes in, you see it, you've created your rental, you're proud of it. We get that, but you need to have somebody neutral coming in and looking at it and saying, if we spend more here, then you're going to make a difference here because you don't see what we see and you're not experiencing it like your guests. So to your point, return on investment is a great night's sleep, a great place to sit, and eye candy, and your photos. That's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Well, so yeah, because so often you see, and this doesn't happen as much today as it did maybe like 5 or 10 years ago, but the dimly lit, the person in the video, the person in the mirror, right? The poor angles, or the big, what is that, like a fish, the fish lens, right? That makes the room look a lot more, a lot larger.
More.
I think like the photos do make a difference, but I think that all sort of falls back to the work that's done and the sort of the foundation that is set.